There are many different debates in this world, some more controversial than others. Some are as deep as what's the best football team, the best political decision, best religion. But then you have these stupid ones that don't really matter that much. Like, hey, what's the best of these two adult animated sitcoms made by the same dude? And both barely made by the same dude. Like Seth MacFarlane created Family Guy and wrote for it a little bit and animated a bit of it. At least animated the pilot, but other than that, again, he pretty much handed it off to other people to let them really write the show. And then when American Dad came around, he wrote with two other people, but then kind of stepped back almost immediately so we can continue working on Family Guy. It's got picked up for that season 4 in a revival. So they aren't really his shows, but like we all like, but everyone just calls it his shows because he's the most iconic dude on there. Yes, this is the debate between Family Guy versus American Dad. For those wondering, by the way, for my Silly Tunes Director's Commentary Season 2, I'm gonna be real, I really wasn't feeling it tonight. So what I'm gonna do is instead, I'm gonna push the Silly Tunes one to next week, and I'm gonna make it that like every Saturday I'll do a director commentary, and then every Sunday I'm gonna be doing a Z-Man extra because I do seriously want to do these videos more, and this will be my best excuse to finally make the series more of a real thing. Okay, Family Guy versus American Dad. I have a couple different of criteria that I will go over, and pretty much I'll just go over each show and see how I think it does. This has been a debate I've been very curious about for a while now, and there are a couple of videos on them, and they're all going to be better than mine. But I decided, hey, I have this series where I go over my random thoughts. Why not use it as a way to throw my hand to the ring? What is better, Family Guy, Family freaking Sweet Guy, or American? Oh boy, it's good. Oh boy, it's good to say, Dad. Oh boy, it's swell to say. Not boy, oh boy, it's good to say. Oh man, I'm already messing up. This is Family Guy versus American Dad. By the way, I'm wearing a Simpsons shirt, so we all know who the real winner is. No, you're right. It's obviously the Cleveland show that's the best one, right? Right? Yeah, obviously not. Let's move on. For category 1, plot slash story slash whatever you want to call it. Okay, so both Family Guy and American Dad are shows where the plot is not the most important thing. Far from it, actually. Family Guy takes place in the town of Quahog, Rhode Island, where we focus on the central family of the Griffins. You have the dad, Peter, his wife, Lois, their eldest son, their eldest, oh my god, I'm already forgetting about Meg's existence, bro. Eldest daughter, Meg, then Chris, and then baby Stewie. And they also got a talking dog named Brian. From there, that's pretty much the beginning and end of Family Guy's plot. At first, it was kind of like The Simpsons in that it was about a family who cared about each other and all that. But almost immediately after the show got picked up for a revival, aka pretty much season 4 and onward, the show pretty much just became just a straight pure comedy. The plots of each individual Family Guy episodes, which I'm pretty sure I do have to go off of for this section because again, both shows don't really have a ton of plot overall. So really, it's on that episode to episode basis. Family Guy really struggles with that. Already, it's not looking good for Family Guy. The problem with Family Guy and its story is that we keep getting those freaking cutaway gags. And you also have those bits where it's like the first third of the episode is about this random plot line. Like best example I can think of is I'm going to use in one of my favorite Family Guy episodes, McStroke, as an example. McStroke from season 6. Keep in mind, I just said this is one of my favorite Family Guy episodes. So I want to show you how even in an episode I personally love a lot, the format of Family Guy really ruins itself a lot of the time. Okay, here we go. Episode starts with Peter getting Cleveland's mail. From there, the episode is about Peter just getting a mustache because he really wants it, because he's inspired by Cleveland's mustache magazine. Then it just jokes about Peter having a mustache until, oh no, he loses it in a fire. So now the episode's about Peter getting a stroke. Did it have anything to do with before? No, but it's still here anyway. So now the episode's about Peter getting a stroke. But no, he gets stem cell research. Thanks to stem cell research, he ends up getting better, and now he's all good. So now the episode's about him and Brian trying to take down like Burger Town, which is the place where Peter got the stroke. Oh, and don't forget the B plot where Stewie's in high school. So yeah, the Peter plot alone is like 3 different episodes into one. And don't forget the Stewie B plot, meaning that's like 3 or 4 plot lines in one 22-minute episode. And that's still including all the random cutaway gags that they also put in this thing. That's like that's like too much, bro. That's the problem with Family Guy's stories, and that it doesn't really have stories. Again, episodes are just, if anything, after those original 3 seasons, the show pretty much just became less of actual stories, and the plots are more excuses to tell whatever random jokes the writers want. That's not always a bad thing. In fact, personally speaking, I actually find seasons a lot of post revival Family Guy to be my favorite era of the show. Like season three's in there, but then from there, I think 4 to 7 are probably like Family Guy at its best. So so this did work for a couple of seasons, but by season 8 and onward, it became like too much, mostly because it stopped getting funny. So yeah. But enough about Family Guy. How does American Dad handle stories? Honestly, I think American Dad handles stories way better. Instead of having like a gazillion plot lines plus cutaway gags, American Dad is way better at it. American Dad, instead of using its weirdness through cutaway gags, it instead uses its weirdness by the storylines. American Dad is about Stan Smith, a CIA agent who acts like he has a normal family, but despite this secret job he has his wife Francine, and then for their kids, they have their eldest daughter Haley, their son Steve, and there's also in replace of a third child, they have Roger, an alien who saves Stan's life. So now Stan lets him stay in their attic, and pretty much became a member of the family. We also have Klaus, a German man who's put into the body of a fish. Because of some Olympic event, yada yada yada. Watch the first episode if you really want the story on that. For the both in terms of just the general plot and also on that episode to episode basis, American Dad handles things way better than Family Guy. Because American Dad, again, it's weird. I'm gonna repeat myself here real quick. American Dad's weirdness is plot based, not cutaway based. So with American Dad, like the weirdness comes from the episode itself, which is way better. It's still not the most it's not the most focused thing ever. They can still have the occasional random bit, but it's usually more of a running gag. So it still fits into the episode better than just remember the time. Not to mention, you also usually get a B plot. So instead of just, so it is still almost always at least 2 plots per episode. At least it's just 2 plots, which is better than Family Guy. Man, I wonder what's going to win this section. Yeah, this is point one. Point one for American Dad. Yeah, this hand seems better. Family Guy hand, American Dad hand. 1 point for American Dad. For having a better stories, not having, because episodes are not wasted by having random cutaway gags, and the stories are more focused, while still being able to be off the walls and funny. Round two. The main characters. I already gave a rundown of the characters when describing the plots, but I'll quickly go through them all just to say my thoughts on each of them. Starting with Family Guy, we have a Peter Griffin, the idiotic man who's the patriarch of the Griffin family. Peter is Peter's always been a weird case for me. In the beginning of the show, he's Homer Simpson taken to the next level. And then he was kind of the same thing, except again more extreme, kind of like how Family Guy in general was kind of a more extreme Simpsons, somewhat. Pretty much, Peter, who did was an idiot, but still cared for his family. So no matter what mistakes he made, you know deep down he really cared for them. But as the show went on, Peter pretty much started to lose a personality. The most consistent thing Peter had going forward was just that he was an idiot. And honestly, I'm gonna be real, bro pretty much becomes a psychopath after like those first couple of seasons. He pretty much stops caring about anyone or anything and really just cares more about his stupid shenanigans. Which again is fine if you really don't care about the characters like that, but it makes it really difficult to care about Peter as a person. Like Homer from Simpsons, I care about Homer a lot because even though him and Peter can be kind of similar, Homer at the end of the day, even in those later seasons that people don't really like, Homer the writers never completely abandoned Homer's care for his family, which they sadly have done for Peter. I'm sorry if I'm making this if I'm coming off as one of those guys who's taking Family Guy super deep. I understand that both this and American Dad are supposed to be like a joke shows. You're not really meant to take it seriously, but I don't know. I'm the type of person who, even in my comedies, I want to at least to have something for the characters. But with Peter, he pretty much stops having a character. Next is Lois. I really don't have much to say about Lois, honestly. She's not great. She's pretty much just a basic housewife mom who, much like Peter, was caring earlier on, but then in later seasons it became annoying, blah, blah, blah. You heard the story. She's not great either. Moving on to the kids, first we have Meg. Meg, the funniest thing about Meg isn't even Meg herself, it's how the rest of the town treats her. I'm on the side of people who find the Meg abuse kind of funny. Like, again, it's one of those things where I think in the earlier seasons, I think it was funny, but then as the show went on, it became more and more annoying as it became her only thing. And that being said, it's the only thing Meg really has going on as a character, because beyond that, she's kind of just like teenage girl. So she's also just kind of there. Chris is pretty much just an idiot. In the first two seasons, and I guess a little bit of season three, but mostly those first two seasons, Chris's whole thing was that he was an artist. He was super creative. The Sun also draws from season one, and A Picture is Worth $1,000 from season two are the best examples of this, and showing that he really did have a creative side to him. But again, once the show was brought back from cancellation, Chris pretty much just became another idiot. So pretty much he became a secondary Peter, except slightly more caring. I'd honestly still say Chris is one of my favorite Family Guy characters, purely because even when the show got more mean spirited, it's still clear he kind of cared. He was still kind of a good kid, and his stupidity can come off as kind of endearing sometimes. And hey, in the newer seasons, even though his whole shtick is now that he's just a perv, that's something. It's at least a consistent character trait that at least I can know about him. Even if I do still kind of wish he was more like how he was in the earlier seasons. Next up is Stewie. Okay, I'm gonna be real here. Stewie is by far my favorite Family Guy character. I love Stewie a lot. Stewie to me is the most interesting aspect of Family Guy just in general, and he really does carry the show a lot, especially in those golden seasons. I think part of the reason why season three is the start of Family Guy's golden age is purely because that's when Stewie, in my opinion, starts becoming really funny. And because I love Stewie and he's my favorite part of Family Guy, he makes the show overall better, if you catch my drift. Stewie starts off as a very generic character, a whole, with Deuce, I want to kill Lois. But as the show goes on, it becomes less about that, more just him in general being smart. And I think that was honestly a trade-off for the better. As in my opinion, it makes him a more interesting character. Still, though, I think the best Stewie is around seasons of 3 to 7. Ironically enough, my favorite seasons of the show, because it has Stewie still being evil somewhat. It's not completely abandoned, but he's still down. But he's also not completely Lois driven, and he's mostly able to use his machine for random stuff he could do whatever with, like random machines, like a time travel device, or all that jazz. And next we have Brian, one of the most infamous Family Guy characters, and much like Peter, Brian's downfall is so infamous, he might be the most hated character now. Well, here's my take on Brian Griffin. I had to swoop the leg to prove how serious this was, not because I'm kind of getting tired of sitting like that. For real though, Brian started off as Peter's voice of reason. Early on, it was Peter and Brian. That's a dynamic I actually very much enjoy and honestly wish that they kept for the rest of the show. Well, Peter being an idiot but well-meaning, and Brian being a smart sidekick who's trying to show him his ways and trying to make him a better person. I really loved that. What the hell happened to that, bro? Well, but no, instead now all Brian is just a narcissist. He only really hangs out with a baby, so it makes him really so he already has like nothing going on. Look, I love the Stewie and Brian dynamic as much as anyone, but even that at this point has gotten so played out. It's so dumb now. Well, I have nothing to say about the Stewie and Brian stuff other than, again, it used to be great, but then it got worse. See what I mean with Family Guy? Overall, my problem with the main cast of Family Guy is that, to be quite blunt, they aren't really characters. The main cast of Family Guy, the main Griffin family, are really more just like joke machines who have like vessels of specific things they need to be. But beyond that, they're all kind of just the same. They all become awful people, and not in a funny, it's always sunny kind of way, but more so in an why am I watching this show when I clearly cannot stand any of these people kind of way. Again, the only character I kind of like is Stewie, but as for the rest of them, even in the best seasons of the show, I really only like Family Guy for the comedy. And the characters themselves really were never that interesting, which is a shame. So let's move on to American Dad. Now, American Dad is much like Family Guy in the way that I can't really say I care about the characters. However, unlike Family Guy, this is made very well established from the very beginning of the show, so it does not come off as weird or jarring when they suddenly become assholes. And also, unlike Family Guy, I can kind of buy that the family care for each other in American Dad. Starting off with Stan, his character was way more extreme in the beginning of the show. Him being a CIA agent and all that was very prevalent early on. As the show goes on, he kind of mellows out at least a little bit and becoming more of the basic dumb dad archetype. Honestly, I kind of like Stan in the first few seasons more than I do in the rest of the show, but I still like him consistently. I just wish he was a bit more crazy, like in those older seasons. Next is Francine, who's pretty much just a funnier Lois. That's all I really got to say about her. She acts like a black girl a lot for some reason, and I find that funny. Next up is Haley. Haley is definitely is not that great, honestly. She's kind of a hippie, but she's kind of just the character that's there to try to protest and try to keep the other characters about like their rights and all that, like trying to defend people. But she comes off as very hypocritical all the time, which I know is the joke, but it just meh. She's like the Lisa Simpson or the Kyle Brofsky. I butcher the name so hard of the group. And I don't find those types of characters to ever be that interesting. So she never really did anything for me. Now, Steve, on the other hand, I like way more as a character. He's, again, Chris just done better because he's also an unpopular kid. But first of all, unlike Chris or Meg, Steve has a real group of friends that he gets to hang out with. It's not Barry and Toshi, who are very good characters, though that is more leaning to the side cast, which I'll into in a minute. Just know, in general, Steve is really funny. He can both be kind of pure and also very psychotic at the same time, and it's really funny. And next we get to Roger, who, much like Stewie, is to me the objective best part of American Dad, but no contest, Roger's better than Stewie. And remember, Stewie was already easily the best thing about Family Guy. What I love so much about Roger is that he is just a psychopath, but again, unlike the Family Guy cast, this is made very clear from the start, and it's on purpose. It's not like Family Guy where they do those stupid "I was sorry" speeches when all the characters are evil. No, Roger just is messed up, and the show is very much aware of this. Roger being an alien and having all these weird alien powers to me is really, really freaking funny. It pretty much allows Roger to be it allows Roger to pretty much become whatever the writers want for an episode, and I love that. He can have so many different personas, and in general, it's hard to explain, but pretty much to sum it up, he's both he's both has a very clear defined personality while still being able to shape himself into whatever character he needs for an episode, but not in a bad way, because again, it's clear that Roger still has the same shtick throughout. Again, this is point two for American Dad, and I don't think I got to explain why. Part 3, the side cast. Okay, I'm gonna be blunt. This is the one time. This is so far the first time where Family Guy to me is easily better than American Dad at something. As much as I do like a lot of American Dad sidecast, like Principal Lewis, Avery Bullock, and Steve's friends, I'm also going to be real and say that none of them hold a candle to Quagmire, Joe, Cleveland, Mayor West, Death, Mort, Consuela. The list goes on and on. Much like the main cast, the Family Guy sidecast are also very one-dimensional, but they're but since they're side characters, I'm honestly more okay with that. If your main characters are basic, then that's kind of where I draw a problem. But if it's a lot of your side cast, then they are indeed side characters, so you can pretty much use them whenever. So to me, I'm more okay with that personally, though I can understand if maybe someone thinks I'm just BSing with that. Still, Family Guy won, American Dad 2, though, so we all know who's still winning. In terms of next category, we have golden ages. To me, I define the Family Guy's golden age as being the first 7 seasons. Although I only kind of count the first 2 seasons, I don't want to just entirely leave them out. And for American Dad seasons, I'm counting the first 9 seasons, aka the original Fox run. And yeah, once again, I consider American Dad to be better in this category. I almost said fam, which may lead you to a false sense of seclusion that I'm going to pick Family Guy, but no, I'm going with American Dad. Yeah, I'm sorry, bro. American Dad's peak is just better than Family Guy's peak. And again, it's really because of a lot of what I said before, so I'm not going to go into it too much. But yeah, American Dad had interesting characters, but still having that crazy humor. But it didn't sacrifice the plots to have that crazy humor. It all blends so well. As the Fox seasons went on, it got crazier and crazier. Like if you watch a season 2 episode and a season 8 episode, you can be very clear you're watching 2 different shows. But I'm more okay with that. It feels more natural than Family Guy's evolution, which was like the first 3 seasons. And then between season 3 and 4, it feels so noticeable. Like you're definitely watching a different show. Well, I don't want to be too harsh on Family Guy's golden ages since I still do love a lot of that stuff. Season 4 of Family Guy is one of my favorite seasons of any show, purely because it's one of the most consistently funny seasons of any show ever. But I also gotta be real and admit that I'm gonna be going more to American Dad's golden age than Family Guy's golden age. Family Guy 1, American Dad 3. Sorry, I'm pretty sure my screen is flipped, so I apologize for this finger thing. Just leave it out of context, by the way. Category 4, 5. Oh my god. I'm so useful, bro. The later seasons. Pretty much everything outside of the Golden Age I define as the later seasons, even though some of them were made over a decade ago. And again, I'm going to be blunt here. American Dad's TBS seasons, while definitely weaker than the Fox seasons, still aren't bad. The main problem American Dad had for me is that as the show goes on, it becomes more and more insane, but like it gets less funny. I think those Fox seasons just had a better balance, but in the TBS seasons, the show starts to get more and more wild and they introduce all these not so great characters. Like I don't care about Rogu, I don't care about that little Billy kid, I don't care about Tuttle, I don't care about any of these guys, but yet all these characters are suddenly given this random spotlight. It comes off like the show trying to keep its wacky self, but not really being able to do as well. It's simply because it's been on the air for too long. Family Guy, on the other hand, yeah, after season 7, it becomes really, really annoying. I'd still say there are plenty of great episodes, especially during like seasons 8 to 11. But in general, the problems I already have with the show, like the characters' unlikability, and the show sacrificing plot for stupid cutaway gags, starts to really ramp up after season 7 for me. And it simply just becomes a kind of annoying show to watch. And it makes me wonder why anyone still even cares about the show at this point. Again, if it's not clear already, Family Guy 1, American Dad 4, since even though I'm still not a big fan of either, I'm not a big fan of either shows, like past Golden Age, like the later seasons. I'd much rather watch a TBS American Dad episode than a post season 7 Family Guy episode. Do I even need to keep going on at this point? I can name much more. I could name a ton of more categories, but I think it's become pretty apparent to at least me. American Dad is simply the superior show. Well, it's funnier. It's funnier, at least in my opinion. Which is funny because I feel like Family Guy comes off more like a pure comedy, but American Dad, despite also having unlikable characters, does it in a more natural way. It doesn't do those stupid "I'm sorry" speeches at the end to try to make you care about the characters. American Dad just accepts that the characters are jerks, but that's their intention. Well, with Family Guy, it feels like they try to have their cake and eat it too. Well, like Family Guy wants to have awful main characters, but still make you sympathize for them, which is simply you can't do. Well, American Dad is more like It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, and that succeeds in having awful main characters. Well, Family Guy is more like the type of shows like Family Guy and to a lesser degree South Park try to do this also, but just really don't hit the mark as well. So yes, in the end, I find American Dad to be a funnier show. You want to know the funniest part? I have seen way more Family Guy than American Dad. I grew up on Family Guy, so I guess it's kind of sad that this is what happened to this show I used to love. But the more I grow older, the more I realize Family Guy is nowhere near as funny as I thought. Well, American Dad, a show I barely recognized as a kid, the more and more I get older, the more and more I realize it's funnier, smarter, has better characters, and is the superior show. Well, that being said, I want to make it clear that I still like both shows. At the end of the day, I'm a Family Guy fan and an American Dad fan. So if you're a Family Guy fan and you're upset I pretty much spent this whole video bitching about Family Guy, just note I still love Family Guy a lot. In my season reviews, I reviewed the first three seasons, and while I was kind of harsh on season two a little bit, on my season three review, I kept praising the season for how smartly written it was. In season one, too, while not anything amazing, was consistently good. For American Dad, unfortunately, I've only reviewed season one as of now, but I do plan on having season two on the poll sooner rather than later. So hopefully, I can start reviewing more of both shows. With that, though, I find with a score of 4-1, I find American Dad to be a better show. Well, despite Family Guy being more popular, but that doesn't really matter to me. Let me know. Let me know down in the comments what you think. What's your take on American Dad? Do you also love American Dad more than Family Guy, but think I was a stupid idiot the whole time and explained it in the worst possible way? Probably, but that's just for you to decide in the comments. With that, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.